Good afternoon, everyone. New type of auroral plasma jet seen in the skies last week. Highly charged blue aurora is roaring down to the planet's surface at the same time. This takes us right back to ancient Chinese cosmology and Pangyu creation myths. That is the explanation of the Birkeland current. The dragons are the representation of this. Top image, low voltage. Bottom image, high voltage. The legend had to be so encompassing that it could go from the microcosm to the macrocosm. On the right, Fu, Shi, and Nuwa. Notice the circles at the top and the bottom. Those are cross sections of the Birkeland currents with the filament streams. The explanation of the creation of the universe, both magnetic and electrical, intertwined in these creation myths. They've also left us clues about the intensity of these currents coming to power our sun and the effects on our earth, all revolving around the Yunlong, top image cloud dragon, or the bottom Fenglong, which is the wind dragon. High solar wind pressure, high solar activity. Right images, SAFIRE, which now we can blend modern plasma physics with ancient cosmology. Dotted pattern that actually represented the phase shift in the sun. This is encoded in the Matsu temples. And while you're watching, please remember to subscribe to Adapt 2030. New plasma filaments appearing in our skies during this ramp up in solar wind and CME through the week of the 21st. It made headlines as they had to name it because it was such a new phenomenon. They called it Steve, of all things. And during those same days, these intensely charged blue aurora, reaching so far into the heavens that it actually looks like a cosmic dragon stream coming down with a tail. Now, when we see events like this, we need to go back into the creation myth of the world of the Chinese. Pangyu created all that we know. It was the way that the Chinese encoded the Birkeland currents that are forming the galaxies along the strings of pearls and all the stars throughout the heaven. Different parts of his body became different things. And this is where the emergence of the dragons come from. These are the representations of Birkeland currents. And they've done this so it has existed for thousands of years and has not changed. In their culture, the top is a representation of low voltage. The bottom is a representation of high voltage in these Birkeland currents powering our star. Now, in the beginning, there was darkness everywhere. We've heard that before in so many creation myths. Suddenly, like a big bang happened, and the way they explain that everything was separated, they're trying to explain the positive and the negative charge here. So it was ingrained in their myths as well. And then the cosmic dragon was in the egg for 18,000 years. That's an interesting number because 8 plus 1 is 9. So not only can this explain from the microcosm to the macrocosm, from all the way from the atom up into the electric sun model, and the positive, negative charge of everything in existence across this entire universe, magnetic field lines, everything else can be explained through this single legend. It's my firm assessment that the ancients knew what field-aligned currents were. They were part of a previous society that was passed down this information. They did not start from scratch. They had the previous celestial encyclopedia, if you will, of the movements of the heaven and the earth and the cycles we repeat, passed down for tens of thousands of years from the previous collapsed civilization. And the Pangyu legend continues. After Pangyu died, his left eye became the sun, his right eye the moon, the head the mountains, the blood the rivers, the muscles the fertile land. This takes us right into plasma geology. They're explaining electrical discharge and also formation of stellar bodies through electrical influence. Also, the dragon can be interpreted in a second layer of meaning. The rotation of the magnetic field in a curving path. This is an image I took on a Matsu temple. This is a Yunlong, a cloudy dragon. Now, usually these field-aligned currents should be equal, but I do believe something ushering in a grand solar minimum, there's a shift in the voltage of the current in one of the streams, which one overpowers the other. And the effects of that also in the lab, I would bet, would either be cosmic rays or some sort of nucleation where water could form. That brings us all the way right into star water. The rotation of our sun through the interstellar medium. And another set of legend in Chinese cosmology, Nuwa and Fuxi. Their legend's even saying that the galactic field can only be formed by pairing, which means these field-aligned currents, Birkeland currents, and what's most interesting, if you notice above Fuxi and Nuwa and below where their tails split at the bottom, this is actually a cross-section of a represented Birkeland current. The streamers within the main field current. Unbelievable. This is thousands of years old, and they already understood what we're just discovering in the plasma laboratories. If you want to know more about these Chinese myths, specifically Nuwa and Ho-E, which I will reference in a bit, great book here for you. They have a lot of PDFs online. You can see some imagery there. Coming back, Nuwa, mending the heavens. She was able to control nature's elements, meaning electrical field strength intensity changes, or Fuxi with creating humanity. Again, we get these microcosm to macrocosm meanings within the legends themselves. So, the creation of the human would be from the DNA strand. The electrical field connectivity would be in the Birkeland currents. So we only need one legend to explain both. And the legend continues that they used clay to create offspring that just came alive. And we can see this same microcosm to macrocosm represented through the ethereal body, through the magnetosphere, through the DNA strand, through the double helix, through the Birkeland currents. And it's just pervasive through the Chinese ancient legends. And when we do talk about Fuxi and Nuwa, again, we see the intertwining of the currents here. This explains both magnetism and electricity, both, through plasma medium. So the Chinese ancient cultures were explaining this chaos serpent dragon in a different way than you and I might think, oh, it's just an actual creature. Well, not in a physical, maybe bone and scale type of physical creature, but a visible representation of electrical activity type of creature. Now we need to go back to the Nuwa legend again. The heavens and the earth were collapsing together, so to fix the heavens, she smelted together 5 colored stones to patch up the sky and put 4 legs down, 4 pillars, and killed the black dragon. So somewhere there was a 5th feeder current that was coming in, overpowering the system, and somehow they were trying to describe how that field was cut, or they had the technology at that time, tens of thousands of years ago, to try to cut that current stream up there, just leaving the 2 intact intertwining currents. This comes back into the water dragon again, overpowering on a current stream somewhere. That upsets the balance. And notice it refers to surging waters. Again, that whole mechanism of water formation and cloud formation when the current density and when the actual voltage stream changes. It is ingrained. So let's take a look at the iconography. How would they represent this in an actual painting? Look at the Mawang Dui silk banners in the Han Dynasty. Looking about 1800 years ago on that. This is the representation of the charcoal rubbing that they have. Fu Sang tree. This is supposed to be the depiction of the story of Ho-E shooting 9 suns out of the heaven. Center of the tree, intertwining plasma currents. Now the sun and the crow, we need to go back to 2170 BC. These crows were represented as either filamentary plasma coming out of the sun or actual CMEs coming off of the sun. Something energetic particle-wise guaranteed is a representation of this. Now you have to ask, is it a legend or is it true? So 2170 BC, we just go back in the 4,200 year event, shortened to the 4.2K event. One of the most severe climatic events of the Holocene period, extreme drought, wiping out culture after culture. I've circled it here in orange. A little bit to the left, you can see the 8.2K event. We are in the blue box. Look how far below our temperatures are. And you've been told that it's the warmest our planet's been. I disagree totally with that. Even in the last 10,000 years, we're at one of the lowest temperature averages. We're barely above slipping back into a prolonged cold event, which would be a multi-century grand solar minimum. And this drought and this climate change is responsible for wiping out almost every culture at that time and dispersing peoples across the planet that lived through this. So yes, this is a true event. Now let's take a look again. Ho-E off the rock carving. Left, plasma globe filaments. Do you see any similarity? Let me zoom it in. Yeah, you can start to see those streamers crossing in this woven pattern. Let's jump over to the SAFIRE environment. I am so enthralled in what they have created and what they have come up with to replicate what's seen in ancient history right now. You can see that woven pattern that appears through the plasma, and here it is, multi-millennia old stone carvings matching with modern plasma physics in the lab. Let's put those three together. Now, if you were going to try to preserve a society and you were going to ingrain this in all, I'm going to be traveling around more temples, putting this information together. And I do appreciate you watching the video and measuring everything up with the ancient historical accounts and the numerology within the Chinese mysticism, 36%. I really wonder what's going to happen. You need to prepare yourself anyway. There's so many strange things going on planet-wide anyway. It would just be a good idea for you to have some emergency supplies around just in case the terrestrial weirdness of wars break out, or a power grid does go down due to overusage in a cold event, or just your day-to-day lives, let alone all the sun-earth effects that are about to be unleashed upon us. But I wish you all the best of luck.